So, welcome to the class. So, till now in this chapter, we learned about database. What is this database, and the advantages and disadvantages of this database and file systems and all. So now, today in our class, we will see how to create this database and how to manipulate the data stored in this database. So for this one, we have to learn some codings and learn some command which is used to create this database and to manipulate this database. So this is known as the database languages, the languages which is used to manipulate the data. So database language, so it is a general purpose language which refers to a class of languages used for defining and accessing the database, which is used for defining and accessing the database. So this defining means creating, and accessing means to access the data stored in that database. So according to this one, the database language is divided into three categories. So types of database. So the number one is DDL or data definition language. Number two is data manipulation language, and number three is data control language. So we'll see it one by one. So the first one is data definition language or DDL. So what do you mean by this? So from the word itself, the language which is used to define the data. That means it is used to define data structure within a database. It is used to define data structure within a database. Data structure means to create the table, because the data we store it in a table format. So that means creation of this table. So table is a container where we store the data. And how to store the data? We store it in a form of table. So now today we will see how to create this table and the command used for this table. So this is the create command. So create command or create keyword is used to create the table. So how to write all these commands and all, so we'll see that one in the next class. So today we will learn only about the keyword that is used for these operations. So create is a keyword, or it is a command used to create the table. And then after another is alter keyword or alter command, which is used to perform or make any changes in the table. That means any changes means if you want to add new column to the table, okay, so that is done by alter table. That means to make changes in the table. So now next is drop. This drop command is used to delete the table. It is used to delete the table from the database. If you want to delete the table also, you can delete it with the help of this keyword or command drop. So in this data definition language, it is used to define data structure. Data structure भनेको table, because if we want to store the data, we need a container, and that container is known as table. And create is a command which is used to create the table. So if you want to add new columns to the table, so we will use this alter command, and drop is the command which is used to delete the table. So now next, number two is data manipulation language, that is DML, data manipulation language. It is the language. So what do you mean by this? From the word itself, it is used to manipulate the data. So see, first we create the table, and then after we have to manipulate this table. Manipulation means it is used to perform a set of operations like insert. See, first we have created the table, and now after this creating the table, now we have to insert the data. That means we have to populate, you have to insert the data into that table. So data manipulation does that one. So data manipulation language, in that language, insert is a keyword or command. It is a keyword or command which is used to populate or which is used to store the data in the table. Now next is, if you want to select, see, insert means to store. So now after storing the values or data into the table, so if you want to perform the operation like to search, you have manipulated many you have stored many data into the table. So if you want to retrieve or if you want to search any data from the table, so we use the command called search. This search is used to retrieve, or we can say to search. It is used to retrieve or search data from the table. Nikalnu bhaneko retrieve. Now next is, so delete. So delete, this is another command which is used to delete the record from the database. If you want to delete the record from the database, we use the command or keyword delete. And next is update. After delete there is update. So what is this? Update means to modify. If you want to modify any data in the database, we use the keyword or command update. Modify means if you want to change, if the spelling of a person or student is mistake, so we use update command to correct that one. So it is used to modify. Okay, so if you want to change the address of for example, if you want to change the address of a student, so we use update command to change the address of that student. So these are some data manipulation language, and these are some keywords or the command which is used for data manipulation. So now the next one is DCL or data control language. So what does this mean? So after creating the table and inserting the values into the table, and then after comes the DCL, data control language, which is used to control access to data stored in the database. So after doing all this control language, it gives the permission, it provides the permission or it grants the permission what to do or what not to do with the help of these two commands. So first let us say this grant command. So grant command, or it is the permission. Grant command, it gives the permission to the grant command, the DBA, that means database administrator. What he does, if he wants to grant the permission to the user who uses that database. The database administrator is the person who designs the database and the user who only uses that database. So what does the database administrator do? If he wants to grant the permission or to give the control access to the data to the user, we use grant command. This grant command is used to provide the permission. And so what are the types of permission? The permissions are this: insert is one of the permission, select is one of the permission, delete is another permission, and update is another permission. So see, after creating the database, after creating the table, there are many values stored in the table. So if in grant permission, if the DBA or the database administrator, if he or she gives the permission to insert the value, so then only he or she can, then only the user can insert the values into the table. And if the user, another is select permission, if he gives the select permission, then only the user can retrieve the data. Delete permission, if the DBA gives the delete permission to the user, then the user can only delete, and the same with the update. If the database administrator gives the permission to update the data in the database, then only the user can update that database. So for example, so I'll give an example for this one. So see, in Google so what does the database administrator does? Database administrator of Google, he designs the database, and then after we use Google, so we are the user, so we are accessing the Google. But the database administrator has given only one permission to us, to the user. So we are the user, we are using Google. So what is that permission? Only the select permission is given. So that is why if you want to search anything, just you write the name of that topic, and then after that value will be retrieved, or that value will be searched from the database administrator. So you cannot insert new data into the Google, you cannot delete any data from the Google, or neither you can update or modify any data of that Google database. So what does the database administrator did? He gave only one permission, that is to search or to retrieve the data. So we are the user, so we can only search the values, or we can only search the items from the Google database. So the Google database administrator, what he did, he in the grant permission, by using this grant command, he granted us only the select query, select or the retrieve permissions. So now next is revoke. So what is this revoke command? See, first, if the administrator has given all this, for example, if the database administrator, if he has given all that permission, if he wants to remove that permission, if he wants to remove the permission from that, so from the database, so we use revoke command to remove the grant permission, to remove the permission from the database. So revoke command is used to remove the permission from the database, and grant command is used to give the permission to the user, So these are three types of languages. So this much in database language.